So, for anyone who's realizing that alcohol is not serving them and they want to find healthier ways to manage stress, you have to start that work, the emotional intelligence, the being with your emotions day one, because it's not about stopping drinking. It's about learning how to process your emotions in a way where you're not reaching for a vice. So, in the beginning, you have a lot of good energy, you have the willpower that's there. So, you want to use that momentum and excitement to help you to create those new habits, to learn the tools that you need to process your emotions, and start to create new rituals.
Let's impact some men today. I think we're gonna do a great job. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Modern Man Podcast, where we are here to connect men in pursuit of their potential. Now, before we jump into the episode, I encourage you to join us as we embrace discomfort, cultivate community, and put wind in each other's sails. Before we get into the conversation, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, share this podcast with somebody else you know can get value from it as well. And to the men that are listening, I encourage you to check out the Noble Knights Men's Group, where you can find the support, accountability, and the mentorship you need to achieve your goals. Join us and become a part of a community of like-minded men on a mission to improve themselves and elevate their capacity for life. And I'm excited because we're going to get some wind in our sails today from my guest, who is an alcohol-free life coach, an emotional freedom techniques and breathwork practitioner, and author dedicated to helping business owners, CEOs, and entrepreneurs redefine their relationship with alcohol and manage stress effectively. It is my pleasure to have Nicole Prentice on the podcast. Nicole, thanks for joining us.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. It's an absolute pleasure. And I love to make sure that the guest and the audience has a chance to get acquainted without me messing up an introduction or getting in the way. So I'm going to leave the room. Not really, but I'm going to leave the podcast really quick, let you and the audience get acquainted. And my first question, of course, is how do you introduce yourself, Nicole?
Okay, I love that. So you had my formal introduction, and I will go
Mhm.
more so on the personal side. So in the past 4 years, I've been just discovering more about what it means to to be happy and to experience the reality that you want. And I'm an avid traveler. I love spending time in Europe, and I also love finding ways to feel good in my body. So that's led me down many roads of body-based therapy, sound therapies, and just exploring what it means to be happy. I like to do stuff with crystals and meditation and stuff like that. But overall, I would say I'm an individual who's very curious. I'm curious about how we can connect with one another, how we can experience a better reality, and how we can keep improving ourselves. And my work is centered around all that exploration.
Yeah, that's amazing. And you've already triggered a few questions
Okay.
on the top of my head, and it's focused around feeling good in the body.
Hmm.
Just because I want to speak directly to some of the men that are listening. A lot of the men that listen, they have a hard time sitting with their thoughts, right?
Yes.
Or the term we use a lot is I'm numb. I'm numb, and I say,
Hmm.
guys, you're not numb. You're just used to the pain of malnutrition, the pain of being hungover, right? Operating at less than 80% or less than 50%. This becomes a norm for so many of us that we don't know we're in pain until we feel something better. So I'd love for you to jump a little deeper into feeling good in our own body, what that looks like, and why some of us who think we feel good in our own body might just be fooling ourselves.
Oh, I love this question. So, before I dive in, I think it's really important just to talk about the fact that in our society and growing up, most of us are not taught how to be with our emotions.
Mm,
Emotional intelligence is almost like this new age or wave of conversation that we're having about having the mental fitness and the clarity of how to actually be present when things feel uncomfortable, right? So the reason why so many people are numb or they reach for vices is because when they feel emotions or a situation is outside of their capacity to process, they don't know what to do. So our body goes for that quick comfort, right? Alcohol, video games, gambling, whatever it is. But why a lot of people feel stuck is that that numbness becomes some type of uncomfortable vice, and
Mhm.
they know that, like, they want more. So, what I see a lot of correlation is when people are outwardly successful, they're like, "Okay, I have the job, I have the money, I have the cars, I have the house, the family," and they realize something is missing. So, feeling good in your body is about actually being able to be present and to notice everything that you have and to be grateful for it. So what feeling good in your body is actually feeling it all, and sometimes that's not good. Sometimes that's
Okay.
uncomfortable, sometimes that's hard, but you have to have both the highs and the lows to be able to experience it all.
Mm, yeah. It's like 48 degrees. And
Yep.
when I say 48 degrees in the fall does not feel like the same 48 degrees in the spring.
Mhm.
Right? You come from the summer, and in the fall, that 48 degrees, bust out the hoodie. It's nice and chilly. Set the fire pit, and we're
Yeah.
cooking s'mores. But 48 degrees in the spring, I'm in shorts and a t-shirt. The flip flops are out, and I'm like, oh, this is warm. This is great. It's the same 48 degrees, but it's the comparison into where we're coming from. But what dictates how we feel is the
Mhm.
ability to go from the hot and the cold. And I feel as though a lot of us, some who love spring or some who love summer and hate the winter, they would rather not deal with the winter.
Yeah.
I want to lean into more of that emotional palette
Okay.
because I'm good at being happy, right? Things are
Mhm.
going well. I'm happy like the rest of them. But when things are hard, stressful, difficult conversations, as you mentioned, it's hard to sit in that. So we can take the summer months, but we don't want to sit in the winter months. What are some of the techniques or strategies uh, we can work on to better sit in those winter months, in those hard times, in those difficult conversations?
Love this one. Okay. So, it's important to realize that we hold our emotions in our body. So, a lot of us are trained to speak about our emotions, and yes, that's one part of it, but in order to essentially move through something and to release it so it no longer triggers us, we have to come from a body-centered approach. So when it comes to sitting with the hard times, it's about learning how to embody what you are feeling. So essentially what that means, I know it
Mm,
sounds fancy, it means just being able to sit still and to feel that emotion. So there are a lot of different techniques that people use. The two main ones I use are breath work and emotional freedom technique.
okay. I'm going to ask about the emotional freedom technique.
What was that? You broke up.
I'm going to ask about the emotional freedom technique that
Okay.
I'm curious about.
Okay, so this one, when I first tried it, I'm like, "This is wacky. Like, there's no way this works." It's a combination of cognitive psychology and acupressure, and it does work.
Okay.
So what it does is when you look at your body and from a nervous system perspective, there are different energy channels that run through your body. And when you're tapping, what you're doing is using the same points that you'd use for acupuncture, but using
Mm,
acupressure. So you're tapping on the spots where you can touch your energy meridian points, helping you to regulate the flow of energy in your body. So when an emotion is created in your body, think of it like a wad of hair in the drain, right?
mm,
So it stops the flow of energy. So what you want to do when you're tapping, the first thing that you're doing is sending serotonin to the amygdala, telling your body that it is safe to feel this emotion. It is safe to feel uncomfortable. And then as you keep doing this, you can then use your spoken word to help share the thoughts, the experience, what you're feeling, so you can get that energy out of your body.
mm.
So, why it's so powerful is you're working with your body to release it through tapping, signaling it's safe, and also using spoken word to help release that energy and that experience.
So you unclog the pipes, let the flow go, and then focus on releasing what needs to be flushed out.
Yes. And once the flow is going, once your energy is flowing correctly, you'll feel better. So when you have a lot of trapped energy in your body, there'll be more stress, more anxiety, digestion will be impacted. So all these things start building up. And by using this technique and other techniques to help you just to release those blockages, you'll just start to feel better physically.
Yeah. It reminds me of the book, The Body Keeps the Score, right? I mean,
Yeah.
the body's an amazing thing, and similar to what I know about chiropractic work and, releasing the tension in the spine so it could operate and heal the body the way it's supposed to. The tapping seems as almost like the micro channels, right? Like, let's say the spine is the interstate. This is the highway that everybody's traveling up and down. This is how we commute to and from work, but the tapping seems to impact more of the side streets and the secondary roads, the neighborhood roads, and those smaller arteries that can get clogged. Am I absorbing this right?
Yeah. So the highway I'd refer to as the vagus nerve.
Yeah. Okay.
And then your other ones, the tapping also affects the vagus nerve because it's so big.
Mhm.
Um, but it affects the other systems as well. So yes.
Yeah. Um, give us I guess, some insights into how this work found you, how you landed on this journey to coaching others and coaching high performance men on stress management and living an alcohol free life. Because we know that relationship can be very dicey for a lot of folks. But
Yep.
as with a lot of endeavors, it often starts with the test becoming a testimony. So I'm curious as to Nicole's story and how this became her day job.
Yeah. So this was not the plan. I went into a traditional 9 to 5 after college, and within the first year and a half, I knew that it wasn't it. Like I was so unhappy, but I didn't know what to do next because everyone around me had a traditional job. But then on social media, I saw people living the laptop lifestyle and having that freedom. So one day, actually, after a few weeks of thinking about it, I put in my notice and I saved up a bunch of money. I was living at my parents' house at the time and I decided, okay, I'm going to start my own business. So it took about 2 years. I worked with different coaches, tried different niches, and I worked with one coach. She was amazing. She had me stop thinking about strategy and she said, okay, what in your life right now is keeping you from being the version of yourself that you want to be? And drinking for me was a social crutch. It was a social habit. I would go out on the weekends with friends to have fun, to socialize. But then it kind of switched. So when I was in my corporate job and unhappy, I started using drinking to cope. And of course, that led to drinking too much, things that I regret. And that shame was something I carried with me. And it made me not feel good about myself, made me not show up the way I could in my relationships. And my coach made me see that drinking, even just on the weekends, was stopping me from like the happiness, relationships, and life that I wanted. So she
Mm,
said, what if you give it up for 6 months, dive into healing, release that shame, learn how to process emotions, and we'll go from there. So I was scared, but I just wanted to be happy that I said I would do anything. So I did.
yeah. Yeah.
Gave it up. Went deep into the healing, which is why no tapping and breath work, released all that shame, learned how to process my emotions. And I started sharing my story on TikTok. And within 2 months, I started a whole new business in a new niche, fully booked my one to one coaching. And I found, which this surprised me, a lot of men showed up to work with me because men in particular have so much stress. They have to be providers, protectors, and there's not as much space for men in our society to have that type of emotional support. And when they realize like they don't feel good and they're stressed, they reach for alcohol. A lot of men are waking up to the fact that there has to be a better way.
Yeah.
And that's what I do.
If iron sharpens iron, so does one man sharpen another. But if you're a man and you're alone or listening to this, then who sharpens you? What's going on, guys? Ted Phaeton here, host of the Modern Man podcast, also founder of the Noble Knights Mastermind Group. And I'm just out here encouraging you to find your circle. Maybe you're on a personal growth journey and nobody around you understands the new mentality that you're possessing. That's okay. You can find an online community that will pour into you, will navigate your goals and navigate your obstacles, share their experiences, resources, and more. Join the Noble Knights Mastermind Group and try us out for free to tap into a community of men helping each other scale up and reach their goals. Check out themodernmanpodcast.com. Yeah, amen. Nicole, that's amazing. And you're right in terms of the silent struggle so many folks go through,
Mhm.
and for the men who are bearing the weight, trying to be the breadwinner or provide for their family. You might have seen those posts of the three challenges. My head knows that I need money, but my heart wants family time, but my body just wants rest, and you can't do all three. Which I coach on time management for those three as well, but when we get to a point where there has to be a better way, I wrote down the note. You said, um, "I just wanted to be happy and I was willing to do anything." And that's something that probably resonates with a lot of people listening to this podcast right now. I say a lot of the guys listening, but shout out to the 13% of our audience that are women who listen to this podcast as well, who we all manage stress in our lives. And the way we cope with it is oftentimes not a way that we consciously picked. It was a habit that made us feel good. You mentioned earlier um, that this discomfort or this vice becomes our blanket, our safety blanket. And it's the fact that the devil you know is better than the devil you don't. So while sobriety might sound scary, that 6 months without alcohol is a shock to some people that hear that, right? They might be like, "How can I go 6 months without it?" What was your initial reaction when your coach said 6 months without alcohol, jump into the healing? I know you said you just wanted to be happy, so you're willing to do anything, but I imagine there had to be some resistance to letting all that go.
Yes, I know this well because I think every one of my clients mirrors this back to me.
Yeah.
Immediately, there's the fear that, what if my friends judge me? What if they don't wanna hang out with me? What if they think I had a problem? What if people see me differently? And it was a big shift in my identity because I was wondering, who will I be without it? Because I was a social
Mm,
person. I love to go out and have fun. So I couldn't picture what life would look like on the other side. And I thought it was going to be so boring that I was kind of terrified. But I just kind of went for it. And those fears I had, they were all just the ego. They were not
mm,
true at all.
mm. The ego could do a lot to us, and
Yes.
you mentioned healing, and I wanted to just mention this, research study. I pull in a couple of studies. This was a study published in the Journal of Nervous and Mental Diseases in 2012, and it found that EFT significantly reduced anxiety scores amongst participants, suggesting its effectiveness as a stress management tool.
Hmm.
So when you give up alcohol and you're going through this healing process, something that you touched on that I think a lot of the people listening could relate to is carrying that shame, right? And yes, we could drink for the weekend, but we can carry that shame all week. And oftentimes the shame that we carry is a heavier anchor than the hangover that we try and hydrate through. What was it that helped you relinquish that shame, relinquish that anxiety? Was it the combination of the breath work, the EFT, journaling? I'm curious as to when you finally started feeling that relief and it hit for Nicole where you're like, "All right, this is it." Like, when you find that thing, you're like, "I gotta tell everybody."
Yeah.
What was that moment?
Oh, yeah. So the biggest thing with like anything you're holding on to is actually facing it head on. And my mentor told me, she's like, you can run from this the rest of your life, or you can just face it. And you'll have to face it someday. So it might as well be now.
Mm,
So, what was really powerful for me, I did a deep tapping session with my mentor at the time, and she helped me go back to specific situations that I was still holding on to and remove the emotional attachment that I was holding from that time. And what's important to realize about healing is you can never undo something that has happened, but you can release the emotional attachment so it no longer triggers you and see it as an opportunity to learn and to grow and to do something better because of it.
mm,
So being able to actually face it, to share it with someone, that's huge. And I share my story in my book, and there's a lot in there that has caused me shame. And when I wrote it, I'm like, I can't believe I'm sharing this. Um, but being seen and having others read your story and just know about it, and you realize, like, oh, you're still accepted, you're still loved. That's a big part of it.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. Like you can't heal what you don't reveal, and being
Yes.
able to go through that process and still have that acceptance on the other side, hugely beneficial and life changing. And the book, by the way, is 100 Proof: Your Triple Distilled Guide to Reinventing Your Relationship with Alcohol. I had to make sure to give that shout out. I love that
Thank
book.
you.
Love the book. Um, so back to the change of your business with TikTok, you book your one-on-one clients, and you mentioned that a lot of men came to find you because they're dealing with the stress in their lives, and then
Mhm.
the 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 hesitancy around releasing that connection or even the dependency on alcohol. It doesn't necessarily have to be a full blown problem, but sometimes that's also the worst, where it's not a problem yet, but it's still a crutch. It's something you're dependent upon. Therefore, it has more of a subtle hold.
Mhm.
What do you replace for the men, and I imagine the women too that work with you? What do you replace that crutch with? If I'm so used to holding this bottle to feel safe. With my one-year-old daughter, when she doesn't wanna let go of the pacifier, usually it's, "Hey, give me the passy because 'cause I'm giving you milk," right? I'm replacing it with something else for her to hold on to. I'm curious as to what that would look like for some of your clients, or if you and I were sitting down, I'm saying, "Nicole, I'm so dependent on this bottle, but give me something else to hold."
When it comes to why someone's drinking, there are normally like 2 sides that it goes down. It's either social reasons to feel more confident, and accepted, or it's to cope. So if we're in like a social situation, I would say grab an NA beer, grab a mocktail just to have something so you feel comfortable. Of
Mhm.
course, there's mindset stuff that will come up that you can work through. But going on the other side, looking at like to cope, you have to ask yourself, what am I actually seeking from alcohol? Is it peace? Is it to feel more relaxed? Is it to quiet my mind? And then once you get to the root of why you're actually drinking, what that benefit is, then we add in the replacement. So, for a lot of people, it is to quiet their mind, to release stress from the day, to be present with their family. So, in that type of situation, I would recommend breath work because what breath work helps you to do is actually down regulate your nervous system so you can enter a true state of being calm and present.
Mhm.
So, that's what you want from drinking. That's not what it's giving you, but breath work
Mhm.
can give it to you.
Yeah, drinking can lead to, a drunken argument, or the cost of what you're spending for the drinks, or the lethargic feeling the next morning. When it comes to breath work, what any specific techniques, box breathing, physiological sigh, what would you recommend?
Those are both great ones. The ones you
Mhm.
wanna focus on for stress relief are parasympathetic based. The one I love to use is called pursed lip breathing. Very simple.
Mhm.
You breathe in through your nose for 2 seconds, filling up your stomach, and then breathing out through pursed lips for 4 seconds. And when I say pursed lips, it's like you're blowing out through a straw. And anytime you have a longer exhale than inhale, that helps to activate your parasympathetic nervous system, which is what you wanna do.
I love that, and
Yeah.
we've spoken about breath work, but I just wanna make sure for anyone who's listening, they can get a bit of a crash course in it as well. Um, Learning to let go of alcohol, um, holding on to breath work. I've seen a lot of times, and I've spoken to countless guests on the podcast who say, when it came to recovery, or when it came to changing their habits and their dependency, it's sometimes it's easy at first, right? Hey, I'm going 4 months, I'm going 5 months, 6 months, no alcohol, I'm doing the breath work. But then a project comes at work, or
Yeah.
my wife and I are going through a tough time, and some of the subtle stresses of life ramp up, right? Like, it's easy to commit in the mundane day in, day out that life has, but when the punches and the storms come, it becomes a little harder. I guess touch on the resilience, or maybe the planning that we could implement within ourselves, because we know the storms will come. I always say we're either in the storm, just left one, or heading into one. But if we're in the good time right now and we're doing well with our sobriety, we're doing well with these new habits, how can we prepare ourselves for the storm that we can guarantee will come?
The storm will always come. You're so true. My client said, "You can't control the waves of life, but you can learn to surf them," and that always
Yeah.
keep that in mind. With what you mentioned about resilience and planning, I actually have a lot of clients who come to work with me who are sober for, like, 6 months, and then the stress happens, they have a big project at work, and they go back to drinking. So for anyone who's realizing that alcohol is not serving them and they wanna find healthier ways to manage stress, you have to start that work, the emotional intelligence, the being with your emotions day 1 because it's not about stopping drinking. It's about learning how to process your emotions in a way where you're not reaching for a vice. So,
Mm.
in the beginning, you have a lot of good energy. You have the willpower that's there. So, you want to use that momentum and excitement to help you to create those new habits, to learn the tools that you need to process your emotions and start to create new rituals. Because when you have that solid foundation, no matter what happens externally, you'll have healthier tools that you can rely on.
Mm. And breathwork being a major tool, a research study in the Frontiers in Psychology, this is from 2017, indicated that breathwork practices led to significant reductions in stress and improvement in emotional well-being. So we have not only do we have the technology, I say in air quotes for anybody listening, we have the ability to do this. The best part, it's actually free. It's free. um, so we don't have to go to the gas station, get a six pack. We don't have to stop by the distributor on the way home. We already have this tool within us, and same
Yep.
goes for the tapping and the emotional freedom techniques. So someone has let go of their dependency, whether it is alcohol, whether it's another substance, or perhaps their addiction is working out. Perhaps their addiction is work itself. We tend to find those things we're familiar with and lean into that to avoid the unfamiliar, right?
Yep.
So the addiction could look like so many different things. We've finally let go of that. We've tapped into EFT and breath work for better stress regulation. Paint us a picture of the promised land. Paint us a picture of what it looks like to feel good in our bodies, live that I'm not gonna say stress free life, but live that stress management life, and enjoy being where we are, being present, and finding new ways to have fun. Because you mentioned those false fears that we have. I don't need alcohol to kill a dance floor. I'm the life of the party, sober or intoxicated,
Love it.
and I know that about myself, so I don't need any liquid courage, but help us know what that promised land looks like. Maybe it's your personal experiences or what some of your clients have been able to enjoy.
Yeah, I've had a lot of clients who they reach out and they're almost shocked when they feel peace because it's something that is so foreign to them. So a big part of like doing this work and like getting to the other side and having those tools is being able just to be present in your current reality and to experience like the happiness and contentment and peace that comes from that. And I know that sounds so simple, but it's so big because if we're always looking for things outside of us to make us happy, it's a never ending search, right? But being able just to be present and to notice that and to feel it can bring that happiness day in and day out. And another big part
Mm,
of the journey is learning like who you are, learning what makes you happy, finding new habits, new hobbies, creating new relationships, and living intentionally. For me, that has been like a really big motivator. It's like, okay, how can I show up fully in my life? How can I be a participant? And what do I want to do today to make the most of it, to have those better relationships? It's having the ability and being the version of yourself who can create the success, the happiness, and the life that you want, and that's fulfillment.
absolutely. A question for, let's say, someone who started from the beginning of this podcast thinking like, "Oh, I need my nights with my social drinking and things like that." And they're probably thinking to themselves, "Okay, Nicole, what do you do for fun?"
I still go out to bars. I love to dance, I love to socialize, and I always kind of laugh when some of my friends are like, "Do you go to bars?" I'm like, "Yeah, I do." You don't need to drink when you go out. There are so many new options that are NA or just bubbly water. you can still go to those social environments because our society is still set up in a way where that's where you go socialize once you become an adult, right? So I still do that. I don't stay as late, but I've gotten more into hiking. I travel a lot. I play volleyball. I paddleboard. I mountain bike. So my husband and I are very active, and I've found that since I've stopped drinking, I've really gotten into outdoor activities and
Mhm.
founding good community in like those areas as well.
Yeah. I do Muay Thai Saturday mornings, and there's no drinking Friday night because I do not wanna get punched in the face while hungover on a Saturday morning. That's my my anti-drinking habit right
There you
there.
go.
Yeah, well,
Now
we 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 find ways to adapt, and as you mentioned, discovering who we are, discovering what we enjoy, what we like to do. Early in the morning, some of my favorite things on the Saturday morning is making my coffee, my French press, sitting in the fresh air and reading a book, reading some Bible verses, and just listening to some lo-fi beats. Those are some of the most
you
peaceful moments. You learn to enjoy the little things, and who knew that the silence could be so beautiful when we're so used to the noise, right?
I could not agree more. I used to think that, uh, peace was boring or being still and, like, having nothing to do is boring, but it's actually peace. It's the opposite of chaos, and that is
Yeah.
just incredible, so I can resonate with that.
For anyone who is in the thick of their chaos, maybe they've been listening to us here the last 30 minutes and they're thinking to themselves, I got to get it together. I need help. I'm not managing my stress well. I have some vices that I can do without, and my life will probably be so much better if I were just to take this first step. How can they take that first step in reaching you? What are some of the best links, contacts, websites for them to check out?
Yeah, so I have my social accounts. I'm on Instagram and TikTok, and I also have a website, which is my name, www.nicoleprentice.com, and my book, so a few different places.
Nice. And I'll have the links to that as well. I know the book's on Amazon, and you can hit the links in the show notes right now to connect and get all that information and follow on the socials. But before I let you go, Nicole, last question is usually the heaviest, which is why I save it for last. And if it's something we've covered already, feel free to elaborate more on it. But what is something that you've seen or something that's happened to you that shapes the way you view the world as a woman?
Hmm. I'm going to talk about being a woman, seeing men and their healing journey.
Okay.
So, as a female, there's been a few things that have happened where men have made inappropriate advances or made me feel uncomfortable in situations when I was drinking. And I used to think men were the victim or the perpetrator, right? I used to think like they were bad or wrong. Having the privilege to work with men and truly get to like learn about them and like what fuels their behaviors and what drives them, men are the victim of the same patterns that the women fall into. We're all just trying our best to deal with the stress and pressure of life. And we fall into replicating these patterns that are not good for us because that's what society pushes us into. So, from saying that, it has been such a rewarding journey just to see how like we are all human and we're
Mhm.
all victims of the same pattern that is keeping us stuck. And together by just being more open about like the problems we fall into, how we're actually feeling, having that honest and open communication, I think is starting to create real change. And it's happening in our society, but I think it's important for people to know men or women, whatever gender you are, we all go through shit. It's hard, but I think we can all get better when we talk about it.
Yeah, we're all out here fighting for our lives, right?
Yeah.
And that's the reality because it starts with empathy, and empathy opens up the opportunity for conversation, which is where trust is built. So, thank you for sharing that. Thank you so
Yeah.
much, Nicole. Alcohol-free life coach, emotional freedom techniques and breathwork practitioner, and author dedicated to helping business owners, CEOs, and entrepreneurs redefine their relationship with alcohol and manage stress effectively. Nicole Prentice, author of 100 Proof, your triple distilled guide to reinventing your relationship with alcohol. Serve straight. Be sure to check it out. Thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I'm going to share really quick a couple gems that you left along the way. I like to take notes during the episode. We have a lot of listeners who are working, driving, or cleaning around the house while listening. Hey, you missed a spot on the kitchen counter right there. No, right there to the right, to the right. All right. Okay. You got it. You got it. All right. How to feel good in your body. A lot of us avoid our thoughts. A lot of us avoid sitting in those uncomfortable situations. And it's because we don't know how to sit in that discomfort of the emotions we've never been taught to articulate or even navigate, and how to be present in the things that we feel uncomfortable. Another note I said later on that Nicole shared was it's safe to feel uncomfortable, but we don't feel like that. So we retreat, and we often retreat to what is familiar. And unfortunately, that familiarity could be in the form of an alcoholic beverage, a website, or a substance. We hold our emotions in our body, and oftentimes we try and think our way out of our emotion when you need to go to the body to heal the mind, and the mind can heal the body. It's a oxymoronic approach, but understanding where you're clogged up, where you could release that flow, and of course, what's stopping you from being who you're meant to be. You might have it well right now. You might look around like, "Ted, look at my house. Look at my family. Look at my job title." You haven't figured out, but what is stopping you from getting to that level you know you're supposed to be? What is stopping you from being your best self? Because it might be mean letting go of that thing that's a little bit too comfortable for you to hold on to. I just wanna be happy. Oftentimes, change when you come to that break comes when you get to that breaking point. You might not be there yet, but be wise and make the change before you get to your breaking point. Understand that you're going to have to face what you're avoiding at some point. You either run from it for the rest of your life or you face it. But here's the spoiler: if you're running from it, it still controls you because it dictates where you go. And what are you actually seeking? What are you actually seeking? Learn who you are, let go of the vices, manage your stress effectively, and find that peace in the chaos that you're currently going through. Thank you guys for making it to the end. Nicole, thank you for sharing your time, your expertise. I'm going to ask that you guys hit that like button, hit that subscribe button to get a new episode each and every single week. And I'm going to tell you to share this. Make sure you share this with somebody, and it could be a passive aggressive share. You know that friend, the friend I'm talking about who might serve themselves a little bit too much. Just don't say a thing. Just send them this link and let them listen to it for a little bit. I'm joking, but it does mean the world to us for you to share this. Leave us a rating to let us know how we're doing. Catch us next week for another full length episode. And as I always say at the end, everybody wants the sunshine, but they don't want the rain. But you can't get the pleasure without first the pain. Let's grow.